Good afternoon, colleagues. Once again, I'd just like to give some feedback. I trust you're all well at home, and we are all, I think, suffering from cabin fever. It's not the easiest situation we find ourselves in, and it has been daunting to say the least. For many of us, we are fortunate enough to be out in nature, and it makes it a little bit easier. I think the biggest frustration is not being able to function, and production has stopped. So it causes a bit of a frustration, and people can't get to their full potential. Being outdoor enthusiasts, I think we all suffer from the same syndrome. Folks, once again, please excuse that I'm doing the majority of the message in English, because this goes out to our international members as well. And I think it's important that we portray the message worldwide and not just only in South Africa. I sit with an array of thoughts this morning, and it's been an extremely busy time. If I just look what has transpired in the last couple of weeks, firstly, I'm relieved that we have spent our first 3 weeks under lockdown without any serious incident. But yes, it is taking its toll, and I think there's more to come. I'm not one of the conspiracy theorists out there, and I look at things realistically. And I know everybody's got their own challenges, and everybody's sitting with a unique challenge. I sent out a message the other day that say we're not all in the same boat, but we're in the same storm. And I think that's exactly where we find ourselves. Each one of us has got a priority and a need, and none of it is so trivial. No need at this stage can be disregarded. No frustration should be put aside. We need to look after each other, and we need to understand the challenges that each one goes through. This virus has definitely taught us how to be robust and to be resourceful, and how to support one another. PHASA as an association is definitely trying to stay abreast of what is happening. We've been in numerous meetings. I'm also a firm believer that not every thing needs a reaction, and sometimes we've just got to see how things go and transpire before we respond. Impulsive decisions can be very detrimental if we do not understand the unintended consequences thereof. So going forward, I really would try and keep you updated with relevant information. There is so much fake news going around, and perceptions and interpretations that are not factual. It is very frustrating, and please excuse me that I do not always comment on all the groups, but when it's necessary, I will do so. And I've said it numerous times. If there's something that you need to find out or unsure about, don't hesitate to contact me. I will definitely get back to you. I'd also like to thank everybody that participated yesterday with the fast response I received from all the information I could gather. On a national basis, it was really great to see we come together, and I can assure you your information will be kept confidential. There will be no names mentioned. The intention of what I'm busy with at this stage is to create an awareness. It is very, very unfortunate, but it is a reality. The Department of Tourism doesn't understand our industry and didn't cater for our industry. When I met with the Minister of Tourism, with the TBCSA, and I mentioned the situation that our freelance PHs find themselves in, the trackers, the skinners, the rural economies that are impacted, the taxidermies, the shipping agents. I don't think anybody could comprehend, and it is very, very evident that we as an industry need to do more to create an awareness. We are regarded as an integral part of the economy. I mean, with a contribution of 1.95 billion rand, we're definitely not an industry that must be discounted. And the minister definitely wasn't aware of all the challenges we faced. She did assure me that she would be looking into it. The reality behind it is at this stage that the Department of Tourism has only 200 million rand allocated to it. The tourism industry is probably the most adversely affected industry at this stage. There is no industry that I think that feels the brunt like we do. I don't think we are aware, if we just look around us at the restaurants, the hotels, the guest houses, all these little small enterprises, tour guides, everybody that is involved in the tourism industry and 100% reliant in the tourism industry is affected. If we just look at the car rental companies that are busy starting to retrench people, where 70% of their fleet is not active, I think we've been very short-sighted and only looked at our industry. This is a global pandemic, and it has far-reaching effects for all of us. The reality is that we have to look after ourselves, and I will try my best, and I can assure you, as president of PHASA, I will try my best to get our message out there to the relevant people. Every opportunity that I've had, be it meeting with the Minister of Tourism or the Minister of Environmental Affairs, I've taken the plight of the professional hunting industry forward and assured them that we will do our best to comply, but also we need to be taken care of. Very little of the relief that has been made available is for our members. Yes, the UIF does assist. Just from the information I got yesterday, it appears that we're going to have about a staff loss of about 60% of our staff members will be put on some form of retrenchment. Some people have been paying their staff less, and come the end of May, this will drastically change, where people will be in a situation where they no longer can afford to keep staff. So I think the unemployment figures are definitely going to be shocking. If we look at the loss of income, it is frightening. We haven't even come to understand what is the loss of income and how this goes forward to bonds that need to be repaid. The whole industry is going to suffer. And with no relief, and primarily the relief, it has all been for workers at this stage, for employees. The employer has been discounted in a lot of areas. And a lot of these organizations, if I just look at the professional hunters, are small business entities where there are one or two people that are employed by that little business. And there is very little relief for them. Now, we're trying, and like I said, I'll continue engaging as much as possible to see where I can get the message across and to see how we can assist. Members have drawn my attention to the fact that some of the banks are not willing to assist where you're self-employed or you're a business entity and will not extend loans, which is unfortunate. And we will take this up to the highest level and try and assure everybody that we are looking at their interest. I don't want to create false hope. Like I said, it is a dire situation. I can't beat around the bush, and I've got to look at it from a realistic point of view. In an industry that people don't understand transformation, the whole BEE situation is being used against us. However, when we look at it, the smaller enterprises and with the low turnovers do qualify on a level 4 BEE. I think it's if your turnover is less than 10 million, you've just got to have the affidavit filled in, and then you will be compliant. However, there's still certain shortfalls, and we've got to look at it realistically. That's not very hopeful if I put it that way. And we've got to look at other measures. We've got to look at looking after ourselves. Our biggest challenge at this stage is we are totally dependent on the international market. At this stage, even if the lockdown is lifted tomorrow morning, we will still be out of business. International flights have not resumed yet. We are hearing information from various countries that flights will be resuming in the not too distant future. But we do not understand the protocols that are in place yet. We do not understand, will they be allowed to come to South Africa? And if they do come to South Africa, what protocols will be in place here? From the information I have at hand at this stage is the lockdown will be phased out gradually. And most definitely, from what I'm assuming and from the discussions I have, and this is my assumption of the information I have, is that the major centers, Johannesburg or Gauteng, Durban and Cape Town, will still remain under lockdown, and there will be stringent measures in place to ensure that there's very little movement from the major hubs to the rural areas. The biggest concern that the government has is that we do not infect the rural areas. The rural areas do not have the capacity to deal with all the challenges, and should an epidemic break out in the rural areas and become new epicenters, it will overload the healthcare systems there, and this is one of the biggest concerns that we are dealing with. We've localized a lot of the challenges in the rural areas, and it looks like the infection rates are pretty low in most of these areas. Johannesburg, Sandton, as we know, is probably the highest infection rate, and most of our international flights come into these major centers. So how this affects us is still to be seen, And how international flights from high-risk countries will be handled is also yet to be seen. The President will be making an announcement on Thursday, and he should allude to a lot of the measures that are going to be in place. A lot of the game farmers, and I think if you've seen the letter from WRSA, from Audrey, and Stephen Paulus is also from the PHASA side, also just sent out a letter. HAWASA, the Hunting and Wildlife Associations of South Africa, tasked Stephen Paulus as the chair, Audrey, myself, Jacques Milan and Tebogo, to have a meeting with the Minister of Environmental Affairs. We met with Minister Barbara Cressy, and I must say she's extremely amicable and willing to assist and willing to help within her powers. I think we've got an expectation that she can do everything. However, she's also limited, and there's a reporting line that she's also got to try and abide to. She will assist us where possible if things are realistic. Now, there's been a lot of requests that I've had from people. Will the local hunting resume, and how can we go about this? Folks, till we know what protocols are in place, we as a WASA are trying to look at measures and means of putting protocols in place and make recommendations to the minister to see if it will be accepted. At the meeting where things were discussed, like the movement of animals, essential movement where animals are in dire straits at this stage, animals like buffalo that have been in bomas for an extensive time, there might be, and once again I emphasize might be, a certain alleviation given and special permits issued. But the general movement of game at this stage is still restricted and is not seen as an essential service. Hunting is also by no means seen as an essential service and is still currently not permitted. Culling teams as such that have the necessary permits in place fall under essential services and can continue if they have all the correct documentation from the landowner and the relevant PIC permits in place. Folks, it is very, very difficult, and I don't know how we are going to generate an income, but we've got to be self-reliant. I don't think we can become complacent. And any feasible ideas and how we can stimulate our industry are welcomed. Now, just from meeting with the minister, is once again, we can understand that she's a great individual that's trying to assist us, but she has only so much that she can do for us. When it comes to certain things, and I don't want to try and preempt anything, but from the message I gathered, and it was said very, very clearly, from the hunting segment, it's highly unlikely that we will have a hunting season this season. There are just too many factors that are still variables. Should something change, this could also change. And I think it's all dependent on what the command center recommends, what world trends are, and we'll have an idea of how we're going to go forward. Yeah, it's extremely disheartening when we hear things like that. But once again, national safety, and I think we've all got our own opinions of what is right and what is wrong. But I think when it gets close to home and you lose a loved one, then you understand the full impact thereof. We will definitely continue looking at mechanisms to assist with relief, and our plight of our members will be raised at a very high level. The outcome of the meeting, I think, was reasonably satisfactory. I didn't leave disheartened. I left the meeting with the attitude that the minister is there to listen, and she will definitely assist where she is able to and within reason and which is practical. Where things go against the grain of the command center, I think it will be highly unlikely. I think travel between provinces is also going to be a major restriction still. I don't think we're going to see much interprovincial movement after the lockdown. I think it'll be a phased approach. So there are still things that are going to be put in place. I think that just gives you an idea of where we currently are now. I will be meeting once again with the Minister of Tourism as soon as she lets us know. We were meant to meet last night, but the meeting was cancelled at short notice, and I think it was due to the President's message. So as soon as I have any further updates, I will let you know. Folks, please be assured that I'll give you information as soon as possible. It's impossible to respond to every single letter that goes out on a daily basis. We've just seen this morning the unfortunate letter that was article that was placed in the Beeld written by Elise Tempelhoff from the MS Foundation regarding that all game meat should be prohibited from being consumed by humans. I think this is definitely not called for. It is definitely out of place, and the consequences of such emotional comments have a dire effect on the whole economy. It's not conducive to anything that we do, and it is unfounded. I don't think there's substance behind it. PHASA, the Gay Meat Forum, and a lot of associations are responding to that. PHASA and the Gay Meat Forum are our main spokespeople. I will just make a short comment today and send it out. But it is definitely disheartening that we get distracted and people exploit a situation and a pandemic like this to further their own gains. And if each one of you feel the need, I would really encourage you to write a personal article to the Beeld, firstly condemning the irresponsible journalism on the behalf of Elise Tempelhoff, stating that her facts are seriously lacking. And we've seen this on numerous times. I think it's an exploitation of a privilege, and we need to understand the effects thereof. Our rural communities are very dependent on the protein that is generated from the hunting industry. The sale of game meat is an essential portion of the supply of food to our communities and the food security. So we need to look at it holistically, and we've got very capable people doing that. I just want to commend the members of PHASA that sit on the panel with us for the amount of work that's been put in, and especially to Audrey for the amount of work that she has done, and then to Stephen Paulus as well. Stephen has really been a pillar of strength, and each day when we sit together, it's amazing to see the thought process that go into this. We can only commend all role players in the industry for this support we're getting in this challenging time. And once again, we are interdependent. There's a symbiotic relationship between all of us. We cannot exist without each other. As I said, all industries are affected, the whole value chain, from the landowner right through to the exporter. A lot of people are sitting in a very difficult situation. I want to conclude and just once again give you hope. Let's stay on our knees. Let's keep praying. There will be relief. The outcome on the other side of this COVID virus, we don't have the answers yet. And we don't profess to understand the full impact thereof yet either. But I do know one thing, that our beliefs and our faith in God will definitely carry us through during this period. And if there are people that are in dire need, let's be on the lookout, and let's put pride aside. Let's try and assist everybody. There's no need for one of our people to suffer. Suffering in silence is very difficult. My biggest concern is, and this is to a lot of people out there, is the effect that this lockdown has had and the emotional stress that people are going through. Let's reach out to one another. Let's support each other. Let's be there for each other. Once again, don't hesitate to contact me. I'm there for you. I'm here to serve our members. Stay safe, look after yourselves, and make sure that you are vigilant, especially on the farms, that we take care that where looting and things is starting to happen in the cities, it's not taken on the farms as well. Each one of your lives is precious. Let's look after each other. Take care and goodbye.